It would be pretty boring for me to give you a long bullet pointed list of statistics along with detailed citations to prove a fact that most of us already know. In America, at least, church attendance and religious affiliation are at record lows. Yeah, there are exceptions to this, but in general, the big graph showing our collective participation in communities of faith is pointing downward. Now, I could actually argue that this isn't that big of a deal. After all, we can all go on YouTube and watch sermons. We have access to books and social media posts by brilliant religious thinkers that we didn't have before. We can Google answers to our spiritual questions, and we can query our AI overlords for faith-based guidance. There are a lot of great things about how society and the way that we interact with faith has evolved. But there are big consequences to these changes, including the decline of the local church. We're isolated, we're lonely, we're desperate for community and for belonging. We experience the world less and less as a collective and more as a deserted consumer alone. I think a few decades from now, they'll be writing about the decline in funeral attendance because we're all failing to collect in-person relationships over the course of our lives. What a terribly sad thought. We are losing each other. There's this journalist named Derek Thompson who wrote about this recently in The Atlantic. He wrote this: maybe religion, for all of its faults, works a bit like a retaining wall to hold back the destabilizing pressure of American hyper-individualism, which threatens to swell and spill over in its absence. Hyper-individualism sounds exactly like what Jesus was passionately teaching people to avoid. Jesus, and I'd argue all of the great spiritual teachers and prophets of the world, begged followers to be radically generous, to serve and not be served, to be one together and to love our neighbors and our enemies. We are meant to be together, collectively, in community, seeing one another, caring for one another, supporting one another. But, and this is an important but, belonging to a faith community is not the same as attending a church. If the old ways of doing church aren't working, we have to invent new ways. We have to keep creating. We have to regenesis our method for communing. We are in the midst of a great reimagining of the way we gather, and the stakes are so high. If musty church basements with cheesy casseroles and stale coffee isn't getting it done, let's reinvent. If big showy mega screens and rock bands and celebrity preachers are scaring people away, let's go back to the drawing board. That's what I believe between represents. A back to the drawing board, back to the fundamentals approach to creating community. We hope to inspire millions of people to create micro communities. We want to empower millions of people to be gatherers and community builders. Let's lift up millions of people all over the globe who want to take church back to its roots, back to deep-spirited people being together and considering the big questions of life. You are part of the new Reformation. You are part of bringing ancient ideas into modern lives. We need to find each other. The Apostle Paul wrote in Hebrews chapter 10, verses 24 and 25, and let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. Here's a short blessing. May you find deep connections in unexpected places, and may your heart be open to the sacred moments of togetherness that enrich your spirit. As you gather with others, may you build communities that reflect love, generosity, and unity. The love, generosity, and unity that Jesus taught. May you be empowered to reimagine and recreate spaces of belonging where every soul feels seen, valued, and loved. In these connections, may you find the strength and grace to combat loneliness and isolation, and may you be a beacon of hope and light in a world yearning for true community. Amen. A Between is about you. Take this message into your life this week and fill the space between you and every person you encounter with your sacred light. My favorite church is the space between people. Now go with God's love and create the church between.